Okay, so it's a double upload day. I don't really like doing these, at least not usually, because it's more work than is comfortable sometimes, but on occasion, things just happen and the timing isn't really up to me. The topic I want to address is Take-Two Interactive and their Scorched Earth campaign against a YouTuber by the name SupMatto. To set the stage, we have to first discuss the lead up to the events in question. Borderlands 3, as most will already be aware, is a massive upcoming game published by Take-Two Interactive and developed by Gearbox. The game has its own fair share of controversy, mostly as a result of Randy Pitchford, but regardless, it is poised to be one of the largest games, perhaps of all time. Being on such a pedestal, however, it inevitably leads to increased protection and security. The basic chain of events, as described by SupMatto himself, is as follows. I am unable to verify a lot of this, so at the moment there are portions that need to be taken on faith, so keep that in mind as we continue, but after investigating everything I could personally, it appears to all be true. During the Borderlands 3 reveal stream, where the Twitch extension was unveiled and later some gameplay as well, the Twitch username of an account was shown on screen in front of well over 100,000 people. SupMatto and a few others thought it would be prudent to follow this account, and did exactly that. The account's name appeared to be gibberish, but a series of accounts were linked together, probably as a framework for testing the Twitch extension and integration itself. In the wake of what we've seen for Cyberpunk 2077 and its cryptic clue-based marketing scheme, it's entirely plausible that what appeared to be gibberish Twitch usernames could be a first step in a sequential scavenger hunt. SupMatto and his friends followed the accounts for some time until they were notified one was actually streaming live on Twitch. The broadcast was private and they were not able to directly watch it, but the thumbnail of the broadcast was not, and as many users will know, the thumbnail periodically updates showing pictures of the game that is being played. At this point, it would be prudent to say that I will not be using Borderlands 3 footage at all in this video, or showing any material of any kind that was available, because Take-Two very well may strike down videos on the subject, and I'm not inclined to give them that option. As the thumbnail was updated, SupMatto was able to obtain small tidbits of information on characters and various other details from the tiny snapshots. He then took the information, which was publicly available to anyone who had seen the reveal stream and wanted to follow the usernames displayed there, and made a video discussing everything. This is where Take-Two went Scorched Earth. The info that he had was apparently privileged, despite being a function of completely public thumbnail updates, and Take-Two, by SupMatto's claim, this is one part I can't really verify, hired a private set of investigators to go to SupMatto's house and ask him questions about the information, how he obtained it, and other channel-related topics. SupMatto claimed that after investigating them on LinkedIn, he found out they were contracted by Take-Two and were indeed private investigators with their own firm. After this talk, which SupMatto claims was very tense, an understandable position given the fact that suited-up goons arrived at his house after a simple YouTube video on publicly available tidbits of information was posted, after this talk, his Discord server was terminated, and 7 DMCA takedowns were placed on his channel. I would like to also add that this is not the first time that something like this has happened. Take-Two reportedly sent private investigators to a GTA 5 modder's home to intimidate him into ceasing his activities, so it lends credence to the claim that this tactic might be something that they routinely utilize. The claims were manual copyright takedowns issued by Take-Two Interactive, and a standard policy on YouTube is that numerous copyright strikes on a channel in a short period of time will result in its termination. This is what SupMatto believed would happen to him. His Discord simultaneously was struck down entirely with the explanation that he had violated their terms and conditions through the selling, promoting, or distribution of cheats, hacks, or cracked accounts. At this point, SupMatto took down his own Twitter page, most likely in a near state of panic as Take-Two was dismantling his entire community and his other channels, which resulted in rampant speculation as to whether or not his Twitter had been forcefully removed as well. At this point, he was also seeking legal advice, talking to his local police force, and finding out how best to protect himself as Take-Two attempted to crush him. I don't know exactly what transpired behind the scenes, but today SupMatto addressed the situation publicly and made a formal statement about how he is taking a break from YouTube and wanted to distance himself from Borderlands and from creating content entirely because the threat of severe life consequences is not something he wants to subject himself to, understandably. At this point, 6 of the initial 7 DMCA takedowns have been dropped, which would maybe be a result of YouTube protecting their creator, or Take-Two dropping them, I'm not sure, but regardless, 1 still remains, and SupMatto has decided to distance himself from the platform. That's pretty much the whole story, but now I want to turn some heartfelt criticism towards Take-Two. Take-Two Interactive effectively intimidated SupMatto, who is an avid supporter of the Borderlands series and was previously extremely excited for the third game to release. They intimidated him with hired goons because their own team's incompetence showed public information to over 100,000 people, and he followed the Twitch account. Take-Two didn't just stop there. They DMCA'd his channel into oblivion with enough strikes at one time to possibly get it permanently deleted, and it appears as if they also leveraged Discord to get his entire community terminated there as well. This is abuse of power and needs to be called out. The information was entirely public. Their own failure as a company cannot be weaponized against creators who simply follow breadcrumb trails to tidbits of information in a logical and natural way that has been consistent for decades. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Massive corporations like this, even when the responsibility of their own inadequacy is solely at their own feet, will still try to manipulate public perception and opinion so as to crush anything that they deem to be unacceptable or unwanted. In this case, they were upset that SupMatto, through what appears to be entirely normal, reasonable, and legal means, discovered tiny fragments of information and then showed it to his audience out of a genuine enthusiasm for the game. If all this is true, and I can confirm that the DMCA takedowns were legitimate and that the progression of events by which SupMatto acquired the information was as well, Take-Two needs to issue a public apology, remove the copyright strike. If they had any hand in his Discord server termination, apologize for that as well and reverse it, and commit to never persecuting a member of their community in such a way ever again. If SupMatto fabricated the encounter with private investigators, which I do not believe to be the case at all, but if that were to be true, Take-Two would still be responsible for a false DMCA takedown on information contained within a video that was available to anyone who wanted to view it, and should be accurately criticized for their role in perpetuating a false flagging ecosystem on YouTube, which is detrimental and oftentimes illegal. The gaming publisher atmosphere has become toxic. I despise that word because it is misused constantly in public discourse. Anything someone disagrees with is toxic, but here it is accurate. These publishers, such as Take-Two, want to dictate the narrative and control the audience. Even in the face of their own incompetence, they will abuse systems in place which were never intended for such a purpose to crush any perspective that does not align with their own. Borderlands 3 is poised to be a monumental game, but tiny fragments of information from a thumbnail are not cause enough to try and terminate a large section of a man's livelihood. Gaming leaks are perpetrated constantly by employees, by company negligence, which is pretty much what this was, by a number of methods really all over the place, and when those leaks are produced or discussed in a major publication, these publishers do not pursue them as vindictively. However, when independent creators pursuing entirely reasonable methods uncover something unexpected, this can be the outcome. Publishers need to be held accountable and forcefully pressured through public opinion into adhering to at least a passable standard of conduct rather than trampling their consumers with not only predatory monetization practices, but scorched earth information suppression techniques in the wake of their own failings. The takeaway from the situation is that for Take-Two Interactive, the desire for control supersedes the expectation of ethical and reasonable behavior. For all creators, it should serve as a warning and rallying cry to better prepare for the possibility of underhanded and malicious retribution if they choose to even investigate a title they are enthusiastic about. SupMatto has now expressed that he is stepping away from YouTube. If all circumstances are to be taken at face value, Take-Two Interactive intimidated a creator into dropping an activity that he greatly enjoyed because of their oppressive mindset. SupMatto has also stated that mentally he is doing all right, which is very good. He has been focusing on other activities, and that is to be admired, but the underlying imperative is that we recognize an ever-developing progression of mistreatment by major publishers leveled against their own user base when that user base is anything other than a silently obedient cash machine. It may sound like I'm a bit emotional or passionate right now, and that is because I absolutely am. This scenario is one I can easily picture happening to myself or any number of other creators that I greatly respect and support. An atmosphere of uncertainty and fear just from covering games that we love because they come from publishers that we hate is not healthy. An environment where these hated publishers intimidate their detractors and even their own fans or abuse systems to silence them is not one I want to passively embrace, ever. It is one I want to rage against with whatever effect I can possibly have. Taking everything into consideration that I have discussed with those that reached out to me regarding the issue, all the information that has been published by SupMatto himself, and my own knowledge of the industry, I fully believe that Take-Two deliberately came down on this creator with venomous intention. And though hardly anything will come of it, probably, I am going to do my best to lend whatever voice I have to the effort of holding them accountable for that. That's it for today, though. If all this is to be taken at face value, Take-Two has yet another black mark on their record, which is probably never going to disappear, and they deserve every ounce of criticism that they receive because of it. But that's all. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. Various ways to support, I guess, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. Double upload day, as I said. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.